There are a total of 79 brawlers inside of Brawl Stars, and as players, we each have our opinions about them. We may think that some are broken, while other brawlers may be terrible. But what if I told you that some of the brawlers are truly intended to be worse than you might think? Well, without further ado, let's begin. So, let us begin this video off with the brawler Lily. Firstly, when she was released, many people had different perspectives of her, some saying she was pretty broken, and some saying she wasn't good enough. Well, with this brawler, she is quite substandard. With her main attack, she stabs in front of her a short-range piercing thorn. Okay, well, look, brawlers with short range are also good in a way because of the amount of damage they can deal close up, right? Well, with Lily, her range is only 2 tiles long, which is, I assume, the shortest range ever on a brawler. With this main flaw, she is easily countered too, as she would struggle to even deal damage or push close up without dying, which also implies that she lacks range to fight most brawlers. Most brawlers can either run away from her or zone her out with their attacks. With her super, Lily shoots out a large fruit that upon hitting an enemy brawler, it allows her to teleport behind wherever the target brawler was facing and deal damage. However, she will not teleport if the super does not hit an enemy. The main reason as to why this is a flaw in her build is because her super is catered towards aggressiveness, and that can impact her a lot, even when she is rushing enemies, and plus, if she misses her super at the same time, it won't be good for her. On a positive note though, with her Vanish gadget, Lily goes into the Shadow Realm for 3 seconds. Lily will turn invisible and her allies can see where she is moving within the Shadow Realm. This gadget is a pretty good gadget because she can completely escape the fights with the click of a button and position herself to places where enemies can least expect her to be, which implies that this is also useful for recovery. However, the downside of this is her positioning in general. While it can be useful at some point, you would really have no idea of what enemies can do. They can position themselves at a random point in the map, and you can potentially end up being right on top of the enemies when you escape the Shadow Realm and easily die without an escape. Or potentially when you're in the Shadow Realm, you will probably just be on a brawler by yourself. You might just end up there and maybe end up dying. So, in summary, Lily can be viable when it comes to certain aspects, but in reality, she is an assassin that could really get some major tweaks in order for her to be better as a brawler. Alright, so now let's move on to another brawler that is poor, and that is in fact Penny. Well, it's weird because Penny hasn't really been seen too much inside of the game, am I right? But in fact, she is without a doubt a terrible brawler. First of all, Penny as a brawler is too weak in terms of her damage, and she is a pretty easy brawler to counter. In addition as well, she lacks a good niche. With her super, she deploys her cannon, firing cannonballs at a very slow unload speed. Her super lacks the ability to be useful as the cannonball firing speed is slow, and it's not worth the time either because it doesn't really hit enemies majority of the time, as it is easily predictable and everyone has enough time to be able to dodge the cannonball. Her super is only somewhat useful if she has her Master Blaster star power, as any enemy that is near her super's landing spot will be knocked back upon landing and will receive 1,316 damage. With her Salty Barrel gadget, Penny places a barrel with 2,240 health that blocks non-piercing attacks. The barrel also blocks Penny's attacks, causing her attack to spray out behind it. This gadget isn't really good either because it is only effective if an enemy is right in front of your gadget, causing you to deal a disgusting amount of damage, except it is quite predictable anyway. Overall, Penny as a brawler deserves a much needed buff, and this is why Penny is actually worse than you think. Furthermore, I know that this brawler is often raved about but still, this brawler continues to be horrible by far, and that is Frank. Frank is mainly a poor brawler inside of Brawl Stars due to his vulnerability and this affects him quite substantially as a brawler. With his main attack, he fires his hammer, stopping in one spot and then attacking. Due to this mechanic, it causes Frank to struggle to push forward and take control of the map, causing him to get a significant amount of damage taken on him. With his super, he stops for a second with a great swing and then stuns enemies upon impact if they are within his super. Well, the thing to note is that his super is easily predictable and enemies have enough time to outrun his super. Even though his super's range is long, it still doesn't affect his build too much because Frank's super is one of the things he relies on, and if the super doesn't make an impact, it has gone to waste. To have a better experience using his super, equip the active noise cancelling gadget, as Frank clears any disabling effect on himself and momentarily becomes immune to stuns, slows and knockbacks, which allows him to effectively take control by hitting his super. Technically, his super is pretty easy to cancel if you play a brawler that has each of the effects that I just mentioned. But in conclusion, Frank can be viable in very limited scenarios, but these are the reasons why Frank is worse than you think. Last but not least, let's move on to the final brawler that is apparently worse than you think, and that is Janet. Well, look, I get it. Janet has sort of improved since her recent buff, but she doesn't really feel much different. Firstly, her main attack takes quite long to shoot out, especially if you are trying to damage brawlers from long range. The focus time for her main attack will be 30% shorter if you use her vocal warm-up star power, which can let her hit her shots faster. Her overall damage output isn't as great because it doesn't deal enough damage, and brawlers like Piper and Nani can easily kill her within 2 shots, and many other sharpshooters can outrange her, given their increased ranges and damage output. Her super as a whole isn't too effective either, as it can be hard to place her bombs on people, hence implying her super is also easier to dodge. Enemies, on the other hand, can also just predict where Janet will land by just following her super. There isn't really much to say about Janet, but therefore this is why Janet is a poor brawler inside of Brawl Stars. Alrighty guys, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to let me know if you have any other opinions on brawlers that appear worse than you might think, and let me know in the comments below. Also, be sure to play the Clash with Haaland event in Clash of Clans right now, if you haven't gotten Clash of Clans already. Also, join my Discord server in the description, and see you guys later. Peace.